Hello, viewers. This is Dr. Qamar Cheema, and I'm honored to have my dear friend, my dear uncle, my mentor, Mr. Sajid Tarar, who is on my new English Current Affairs channel, The New Word with Dr. Cheema. Thank you very much, Sajid Tarar, sir, for your time for our new news channel.
My pleasure. And first of all, I wanted to congratulate you for taking this step. It was very well needed. If you are an English-speaking person and you want to know anything about Pakistan, especially the view of a Pakistani people, you did not have any choices, options. So I think you are doing a great service to Pakistan and great service to the English-speaking people.
Thank you very much. So, Sajid Sahab, the first important point which I want to discuss with you is that since you are based in Washington and Pakistan's foreign policy is in trouble, we have been talking on that. So, how do you see that we have seen a new government in Islamabad as well, where the U.S. Secretary of State has met with the new foreign minister as well. So, while sitting in Washington, D.C., how can you explain our audience that why Pakistan's foreign policy is in trouble? And do you really feel so that the new government, which is in Islamabad, they can mend ties with the US particularly? And you have been seeing these highs and lows between US and Pakistan over the period of time since you have been yourself an active member of the Republican Party and even a Trumpster. Indeed. So, how do you see these Pakistan-US relations while sitting in Washington D.C.?
I see the Pakistan's foreign policy from two different angles. One from the Pakistani point of view, and one is from the American current issues in US. From the Pakistani point of view, Pakistan, whatever is going on in Pakistan, political instability, financial crisis, non-seriousness, especially using anti-American sentiments. That is a one thing. And second thing is this: I have already told you several times that this is a wrong perception or basis of Pakistani foreign policy, that we always think wherever the money is coming from, only we have the relationship with that country. Either it's a CPAC or either IMF or either any other financial institution. That is the Pakistani point of view. From American point of view, the current administration, plus, I'm sorry, let me add something to my first point. The Pakistani administration, I know the new government came up there. It is a very weak government, because they just came into the power based on one non-confidence vote. They don't have any opposition in that. So all of these elements, they are being viewed from the diplomats and from the world. And second, let me come to the American point of view. America is going through their own political crisis. Joe Biden, who came into the power based on the voting. Half of the country still believe that election was stolen from them. He came into the power with the mail-in voting results, which was very abnormal in an American election institution or a political structure. So the Joe Biden doesn't have any vote of confidence from the entire country. Secondly, he has been very weak. The example, MBS, who is a Saudi ruler right now, is not picking up his phone calls. He has been very offensive against him since ever Joe Biden came into the power. He was very offensive against that king regarding journalist murder, and now he wants to visit Saudi Arabia. So that is a weak foreign policy there. And again, a Democrat party, when Barack Obama used to visit Saudi Arabia, the mayor of Riyadh used to receive him on the airport. Secondly, look at the North Koreans. They are doing experiments on the missile system, and America is completely on the other side. They are looking on the other side. Russia has gone to Ukraine, and they could not protect their ally. China is threatening their Taiwan. So America looks weaker. And based on these things, both sides, that is one of the reasons I think the ex-Prime Minister Imran Khan is taking advantage of it, and he is trying to put the blame on American government or regime for his regime change, his government change, which is completely absurd, which is not true, because America has no interest in Pakistan right now. Barack Obama was the founder of it. They have picked up India as a partner against China in that region. So they have lost their interest in Pakistan, and especially they have a lot of reservations against Pakistan. And thirdly, Democrat Party is not it's not part of the mandate having a strong army and strong foreign policy. If you study the history, the Republican Party believe in a stronger army, and whenever they look for the stronger army, stronger Pentagon, stronger foreign policy come under there anyways. So these are my conclusions that both countries, Pakistan is facing a weaker regime, a weaker government with no mandate, no opposition, and in America is going through their own political crisis and no interest in Pentagon, stronger army, and stronger and protection of the allies.
Well, Mr. Sajid, the important point in this Pakistan-US relations is that since Pakistan is depending on the IMF for its economic recovery, the entire budget of Pakistan of 9.5 trillion is dependent if the IMF helps Pakistan. Meanwhile, the previous government in Islamabad was lamenting and criticizing the Americans, but the new government is seeking help from the United States so that the United States can talk to the IMF for so that there are not tough compulsions on Pakistan as far as this IMF program is there. So do you think that the American government can rescue Pakistan and can ask the IMF so that the IMF compulsions or the restrictions are not tough? Do you think the Americans will help?
I think Americans, they are leaning towards it because reason Pakistan is still a sole atomic power in that region. So, and I believe Americans now they have shown some interest through the IMF and through the FATF that they want to work with them if there is an interest from the Pakistani side as well. Here, I have some contradiction. I have some different point of view related to Imran Khan, the last government. They were criticizing America. They are even criticizing America now. But that is the first regime where they did the legislative work for IMF and then they created a new structure for the State Bank of Pakistan. So their political narrative is completely different than their facts. In the facts, they have been working along with American sides or trying to protect the American interest in that region. If you can see it, how the first example is a closure or slowdown of CPAC. They made a U-turn from the Chinese camp and they came back to IMF and they were working with it. So, but the thing is their political narrative is completely different than the practical what they have done during the last 3.5 years. They hired Moeed Yusuf from Washington DC, and the sole reason to hire him was to normalize the relationship with Washington DC. But they were not successful in it because a lack of political experience, a lack of political will. Their decision making was not. Foreign, especially in relation to the foreign policy. They did not have enough experience on it. They were just jumping left and right, China, and then going to Russia at the very critical time when the rest of the world was on the other side, and Mr. Khan was standing in Russia on the same day when they started the bombardment on Ukraine. So there were a lot of immature steps and decisions were taken during the last 3.5 or 4 years. But the state of Pakistan is suffering due to that, and the relationship with the rest of the world is suffering. Imagine Pakistan is so isolated right now. Even then, the Bilawal Bhutto other day said that Pakistan is isolated, and how you are using anti-American sentiment for the political gain. Number one, China is upset with you. CPAC is closed. TTP is attacking from one side, and only neighbor is left is India. And you can imagine what kind of relationship you have with India.
Well, Mr. Sajid, the important point, while the many people in Pakistan and India would like to understand from you, that what Pakistan should do, that United States should not view Pakistan from an Indian or from Afghanistan's lens.
First of all, we have to change our mindset that we believe if the money is coming from the country, it means we have a relationship. And if the money stops, we believe that our relationship stops. That perception has to be changed. Plus, from the both angles, when the Osama bin Laden was found in Pakistan, the trust factor among two countries was vanished. And second side, when you're talking about India, we have a trust factor there as well. So first of all, Pakistan has to take the baby steps slowly, gradually towards the both countries to restore the trust factor. So far, Washington DC, Pakistan was not successful in it to changing that image of a double gamer. So they still there's a trust factor from the American point of view, and there's a trust factor from Indian point of view. So the Pakistanis have to take steps. I believe when I was there in Pakistan 2 weeks ago, I sent the message to the Prime Minister, the current Prime Minister, that when if you go to China, you need to come to US as well, regardless what kind of reception you get, but still come up there to tell the world that you are open for dialogue. So before this is what happened. Our Prime Minister only visited if they get the invitation from the White House. That's a wrong perception. They need to come here and talk to meet people at the Capitol Hill. They need to come here to encourage the Pakistani diaspora, plus to send the signal to America that we are different, and we are different than the other regimes, and we still want to have a relationship or dialogue, regardless you give us money or you don't give us some money. So I believe the point has come up. The current regime, Shehbaz Sharif, either he's the weaker prime minister right now, but he has a card in his hand. The world wants to try him. He has received the signal from China. He has received signal from Russia. Bilawal Bhutto was received very well in US. So the world wants to try and help them at the same time. And recently, you have seen probably in IMF, they are very serious to restore their program there. FATF is planning to work with them. So I think the Pakistani government, they should avail these opportunities and open up a dialogue with everybody. And not particularly here, I'm very much interested in to start having a dialogue with India. And at the same time, here I want to mention, since we're talking about the foreign policy, some Pakistani American delegation went to Israel at the same time. And I think there's nothing wrong to start a dialogue with them. It's a territorial issue. It's nothing to do with the religious matters. And if it works with the Pakistani interest, I think it's a good opportunity to start a dialogue with Israel as well.
Well, Mr. Sajid, the next question, looking about the conversation we are having, is time and again, you and many other people have mentioned that Pakistan is doing a double game. But on the other side, Pakistan has a perspective, and that is that we have lost $120 billion because this war against terrorism. Thousands of people have died in Pakistan, including the people from the military, from the civilian side, as more than 80,000 people have died because of this war against terrorism. So what do you think that what should Pakistan have done that the rest of the world would have accepted and acknowledged Pakistani sacrifices? Because Pakistan is saying we sacrifice financially and physically for this war against terrorism. So why doesn't world trust Pakistan, or why Pakistan is still called playing a double game?
First of all, when the Osama bin Laden was found in there, that was a big shock. Even then, whenever I'm talking about Pakistan foreign policy, I divide the period, the pre-Osama bin Laden and after Osama bin Laden. That was a big, huge factor. And since that time, again, Pakistan has sacrificed a lot, but you have failed in the marketing. You have failed to tell the people of the world what your losses were. And plus, at the same time, when the world look at the corruption index, from that Pakistan has gone from 120 to 140 in corruption index. So that defines a lot of things. And plus, the only dollar-based, interest-based policies. Would you think that the people are not watching it? People are watching it. How Pakistan has been behaving. How this is a common trend in Pakistan. That your ruling elite has a fashion there that their wives are dual national, their kids are dual national. Everybody sits in London and are trying to operate Pakistan from London over the years. So all of these things are under the consideration of the West. West is watching it very closely. You have to change. I always ask my friends, let's pray that Pakistanis should get Pakistani leader. Let's pray for that. Because so far, look at all the your stakeholders. Majority of them, they are based in London, Canada, or somewhere else. So that has to change. That has to go somewhere before we start building a new relationship. And the time has come up. People of Pakistan have appetite to see Pakistan growing. They have been giving this mandate to many politicians towards the accountability and reforms. But unfortunately, so far, they were not successful in it. But there's a huge appetite for that.
Well, Mr. Sajid, in the end, I want to ask the last question from you, that Pakistan's economy is muddling. the political situation is unstable, where this is a national unity government which is ruling just with the two votes. So what do you expect? What do you expect that in next 1 year with this parliament to complete its tenure, what they should do, that the relation between Pakistan and the West, or the relation between the Pakistan and the US, can be more better, or things can improve between Pakistan and the West? What do you suggest to the Pakistani authorities? And since your meetings you had with the Pakistani officials, if you had any, so what will you suggest right now to our viewers, that what Pakistan should do in next 1 year for being a more stable country?
Let me give you answer in two different parts. First of all, I want to let some light on, shed on some light on it. What is happening right now? Let me say, other day while I was in Pakistan, in Lahore, there were two sessions of Punjab Assembly. Two sessions. One was inside the assembly. One was outside. Pakistan right now doesn't. Punjab is one of the lucrative province, and right now nobody knows who's the chief minister there, who's calling the shots. And what do you think? The people are not watching it. In Islamabad, the new prime minister, when the first few weeks, when it was a very critical time going through it, he took his entire cabinet to London. People are confused who's prime minister. There are two prime ministers. There's a Dar Saab is criticizing Miftah Ismail. There are two foreign ministers, no, two finance ministers there. So what do you think? The people are not watching? The world is not watching? People are watching. World is interested in dialogue with Pakistan, but with who? Who has real authority on it? And when you when you watch the talk shows, they are saying the current regime will go away within 48 hours. Next week is very important. 36 hours very important. Our ex-prime minister is trying to burn the country. He said, if I'm not there, Pakistan will be divided in three different parts. So the world is not watching. My 1 year, since you said that, my biggest advice to the country was to improve the law and order, to improve your inside, your house, your in the house job. If law and order is better, situation is better, it will be good for the world to see it, that you are serious. It's worth giving you a loan, or it's worth investing in Pakistan. But if the law and order is not good, if the China is not happy in the CPAC, how the rest of the world can think about investing anything in there? That was the message I was trying to send across. And plus, at the same time, I have been telling the current regime that since you have a new card in your hand, people wants to the world wants to the world want to work with you. You need to cash it. You need to start going to Europe. Our ex-prime minister, he has completely ignored Europe during his period. He came to US during the Trump administration, but he did not go to the Europe. So go to France, where it has been long time no Pakistani ambassador is serving there. So you appoint a nice gentleman there as a Pakistani ambassador, and then go to European countries. Regardless, you go there for 1 day or 2 days, and same come to America. But you can only come when you have some kind of stability in Pakistan. If you don't have any stability in the house, how can you go out there and convince others? So the in-house stability is very important, either after election or either before election. But right now, the stakeholders have to think about Pakistan. And the biggest message I always give it to anybody when I meet, that nations cannot survive without nationalism. Think about Pakistan. Think about what kind of mistakes we have made since last 74 years and how to correct them. Admission. Right now, I'm very upset and very saddened that our ex-prime minister hasn't admitted a single mistake. What do you think? He's an angel? He has been making mistakes. And the correction only starts from admission. You have to admit, and then the correction comes up. So these are the things I always ask the Pakistani fellows to step up and try to fix the law and order and rate of government, so the international community can give you money as a loan or grants, or invest in money in Pakistan, and make sure that we come through these crises. We come through. So far, I'm very disappointed. No institution, no leadership. They're talking about just burning things, but nobody has a roadmap towards the strong economy in Pakistan. That is what my problem is.
Well, at the end, what I've been saying is that if there is a strong internal political stability, and if the internal security situation is good, that will determine the outlook of Pakistan's foreign policy.
Yeah.
So this is your conclusion of the talk. So thank you very much, Mr. Sajid Tarar, for sparing the time for our new channel. Thank you for the comments.
My pleasure. Pakistan.